George O'Connell here with another living room chat. Hopefully, a lot of people walk away with learning something from this one. I'm going to talk about the game inside the game. And I'm going to give you any very common, like if you really want to do really well at a tournament, or like say the US Masters, you really want to finish well, there's certain builds you have to be able to compete against. And I'm going to cover probably right now what I think is by far the best build. It's very simple in nature, but it's very tough to attack. And it can really get people frustrated where they just throw stuff at it, which is making a huge mistake. First of all, the game itself, when you look at it, is a lot like chess. It's designed around chess. But what I mean by that is, just like in chess, board positioning is really huge. King's War board positioning is really huge. It's a game where it makes you think in advance how you want things to end. Where it's not like chess is where you only have 7 rounds. So really you got 7 moves basically in the game. So, and nobody in Kings of War thinks 7 moves in advance because it's like water, the game. The battlefield's going to change. It's going to come off the different scenario. Now you might be putting your position in 1 or 2. So, but I'm not going to cover that too much right now. I'll cover that in a later video. Right now I want to talk about how this game's more like a puzzle. I look at it as a puzzle. When you're playing an opponent, not only do you have to know your build and what the strengths and weakness of your build and what your build can do, you have to know the strength and weakness of your opponent's build. And sometimes you have to do things that maximize your chance into the game, because some scenarios for your opponent's build, they're going to be like super strong at. Now I'm going to go to a build that can be done by a few armies at a very high level. Matter of fact, I'll give you an example. The same build is basically run by Sean Williams, who's right now ranked #1 in the Southeast. You have the reigning US Masters champion, Patrick Allen, who runs the exact same build. And the best one in the Mid-Atlantic and top guy over there is Alex Chavez, who runs the exact same thing. Now, 2 of them are running undead, one's running dwarves, okay? Different pieces, but that's what GW does. You can build the same type of builds in some lists because they give you the same pieces, the same tools in the toolbox to build that list, and that's what they did. Basically what their army is, when you look at it, is the Undead Army by Sean and Patrick is basically has a lot of regenerating, a lot of defensive 5. They're not worried about throwing shaft out there. Neither one of these lists will use shaft. What they'll do is they'll let you hit their unit, and if you can't take them on that charge and kill that unit, then what they do is they surge into you. And some scenarios where like controlling the center of the board, boy, it makes their job really easy. But one of the best ways to defeat this army, okay, especially in certain scenarios, is how you place your tokens. Like really one of the things I really like is the scenario play. I didn't even bother reading it, but when I turned around recently and really started studying it, and there really was a genius behind that with the rules committee, because what they ended up doing with it is you can now make your opponent's build just by how you placing your tokens in that beginning of the game a liability. Like a real good undead player like Patrick Allen is like pulling teeth to get him to separate his army. Now newer undead players, all right, who are not running the same build or close to the same build, what they do is they separate their army. So that's your key. You have to separate that army. And in some scenarios, you can do it really easy, like here. Say this is the board. This is the board. Can you see it? Okay, here's the board. What you can do, when you're placing tokens, do not let him have that center, then put tokens right next to one another, and you help him by doing that. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is separate his army. So, like, one of my favorite tactics would be, like, I'll put a token way over here. Hopefully people can see it in my laptop. But let's say I put one over here. Then the second one I want to place, I want it to be far away as possible, and I'll put it up where my finger is. And then I have a third problem putting one back here. That way, if he wants to control those tokens, he's got to start separating his army. And you're taking away what he does to his strengths. Now, real good players are going to come up with things to try to stop it, but when you go to a tournament and you walk around, you see how other people are playing them. It's mind-boggling that people aren't separating their tokens when they play against this type of build because it's so powerful. Right now, it's the best build in Kings of War. So if you can't defeat this build, put it this way. Let's look at Magic the Gathering. People will build decks, okay? And if you know what your opponent's deck is, you should be able to build a deck to defeat it. Because if you can't build a deck to defeat it, you're really in trouble. And the game's completely changing in Magic the Gathering with each set out. But when you're looking at it, that's how Kings of War is when it comes down to your battle plan. Can you force your opponent to fight your army on your terms? What is the weakness of his build, and how do you turn around and wish call it? I look at this game as a bunch of puzzles. To me, it's like Candy Crush. And people are going to say, oh, I hate this game. No, Candy Crush is it's a different board, and you're trying to defeat that board. Well, in this game, there's so many different types of builds you can make. And the most dangerous builds for me are ones that I haven't seen. So, I'll give you a perfect example. At the TNT, on the fly, I had to really change things up because I was playing a Mongol army that had a bunch of units that fought like characters. And that was the first time I ever played it. And I'll tell you what, it was like, my eyes went wide open with the possibilities. And if Shannon would have played that thing a lot of times before, I think it could have been even better. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so different than what you're used to. Like here's for me, an army that's a matchup problem is, which I'm working on trying to come up with a cool plan to beat it. Sorry, I have a brain fog. Jeff O'Neill's owning Goblins. That Goblin army is so far different than a lot of armies that really changes up how you want to attack it and defeat it. And you want an army that can flow like water, but a lot of times when it comes down to tactics, you can help yourself with any type of build. As I said, by separating it out. So if you're putting tokens here, then here, then here, all within 12 inches, making it easy for his army to stay together, you're helping that build out. If you're separating it, one down in the far diagonal quarter here, one over here, you're making him choose what he wants to do, and especially when, Alex's list does not have a lot of drops. Sean's list doesn't have a lot of drops. Now, if I was bringing someone new in and I said, okay, I want you to compete at a high level, the build I'd be following is this build because it frustrates you. What they want you to do is they want you to charge in, they're going to hold you in combat, or they might even lose a unit, but then you're there. And then it's not shenanigans, it's the rules of surge. They're going to pivot on units, go over to the side, come within 1 inch, then surge in. And they're doubling their attacks. So it's very simple. One does it because it's hard to kill Sean's list and Patrick's because they'll throw so much regen into that army. And if you're not pulling that unit out at a turn, it's just regen. Alex's army, he's got all that defense of 6. And with that defense of 6, he's knowing that you're not going to get as many wounds on him. So I think the South region does a lot better job of combating it. I think if you would have pulled Patrick Allen apart and asked him, okay, was the U.S. Masters easier for you with people knowing your build, or was the South? And the South's really good at figuring builds out and knowing how to combat them. They did a great job against me at Lone Wolf. They couldn't beat me, but they figured the best way to stop me was to have units just completely hide. So I couldn't take points off the board. So now it's went to more of a scenario game, which really, as I said, I think the Rules Committee did a brilliant job on that. So I'm going to cover a few more things coming up in the future in different videos. So I'm going to try to pass along some knowledge. Maybe you read this, get a little bit better, and that's what the ideal is, to make people better. More their game rises, more hopefully my game will rise to match it. There's been a fire lit under me. When a fire's lit under me, I really start going into the aspect, and I really haven't had this fire in a long time, so I'm like, really super excited about it and looking forward. Happy wargaming. Talk to you later.